that the not in the episode of Big Life. Alright. Just kind of putting that in television like I didn't want to learn this science stuff. You know, learn something. Why? I am. Yeah. Hey, Harry. What I what am I new? Oh, what am I? This one. Hey, what is stuff? Yeah. Hey. Oh wait, no. Can I help you? Oh, yeah, and come on. That ain't borrow your tablet. Why? Well, I had it's time I see video of what you made for. You haven't, it's not video about you. It's tomorrow. Yeah. It's a long, let me see. Oh, that means, look, I'm talking to you. No, right in your mouth? Yeah. So, what, what are you talking about? Well, my friend and I mean, making my own, let me see. You mean, making your own, let me see? Hell yeah. Oh, my. Do you even know how to make one? No, well, no, but I can somehow try. Fine. I mean, this is limited. Hopefully, if they want to do it. If not, I'll hit you. Alright. Oh, you're telling me video. Right now, well, I mean, you're not at this. Oh, but at this? Yeah, but you would go into that TV, and, you're gonna hear me. Oh. Well, I'm not picking amazing. What's on me now? Alright. Well, I'm on bedtime. But, that was enough. I have to, what was it? Wow. That light is awful. Like, I have one light bulb. Well, this way I'd be stuck small. Well, that's the other. This week is going to be. You know, like, actually, be better. A fan. It's hot here as well. I just want to not fight. One more fight. How will this doing? Help me. Have better fun. Video, please. But, anyway, guys, that's not my point. Oh, wait, no, now, yeah, I don't get to do it as well. Anyway, today, I have no television video. But, I was very excited in that, the fifth month that came out, and it felt like doing anything. So, I also had three times. Oh no, doing it, like, look, and it's comparing, and then starting to react, and kind of, like, no, no, yeah. But not this well, hit the hill. That is, been a while. You know, I had, I hit the hill, like, very well. So, I added that button, the last one, the cat was, on his board here, though. So that, people, people, I want to go,
We all know about the 1997 series King of the Hill.
Oh, yeah, but
It's still airing on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim block, but I encountered something dark with the series sometime in late 2007. I was in a Goodwill store to buy some N64 games because that store normally had a good stock of retro games available. However, I strolled over to the VHS section in the back, just then remembering that I owned a VCR. One of the first things I saw was a Titanic VHS tapes. The one that came in 2 tapes, but it was in 1 dust cover. I thought that it'd be a good movie for me and the wife, as she had never seen it before. To ensure that the tapes would be functional, I took one of the tapes out of the dual VHS dust cover, only to see something unexpected.
What?
It was a VHS tape with a crooked sticker on it. Written in Sharpie was KOTH S1E1 and R. I inspected the other tape and it said KOTH, S1, E1, and RP2. I assumed that it was part 2. I didn't know why one 20 to 23 minute episode took 2 VHS tapes or why they were even being sold as Titanic,
You know,
but
really
I was
know that kind
curious.
of weird.
I bought the 2 tapes
That's
for
nice.
$2.22.
Very nice.
When I got home, nobody was there but me. Therefore, I had to take up the painstaking process of uncoiling the stiff coax cables from the bulky VCR. I soon turned the TV to channel 3 and began viewing KOTH, S1, E1, and R.
And that phone
It
number
had the
was
regular
this.
opening of the first episode of King of the Hill,
I
but
want to
without
put
the
that in my
music.
mouth.
It was just a silent camera panning over the city of Arlen. It began normally after that, with Bobby at the baseball game and Hank yelling at him. And as we all know, Bobby did not succeed. This is where everything started getting weird. On the ride home, Hank, Peggy, and Bobby were completely silent, and this went on for about 3 minutes.
I don't like
Nobody
silence.
was angry.
It's
Nobody had
weird.
any expression, actually. Just completely blank faces with only silence for company. Abruptly, as the family pulls into the driveway, it cuts to a scene inside the house. Hank was yelling at Bobby for not giving the 110%. Hank had picked up a baseball and got to a throwing position. At that point, the video quality was getting very scraggly and the volume level was raised roughly 10%. Hank pegged the ball and it hit Bobby's nose. Peggy was in the background crying and Hank simply told her to shut the hell up. Bobby immediately cupped his nose and ran out of the room crying the whole way through. As Bobby was in the bathroom checking his nose, a social worker came to the door. Peggy greeted him as Hank sat on the sofa, relaxing as if nothing had happened. From this point, the colors began to look more like the real episode. The scene with Hank telling off the social worker played off as it did in the real episode. Suddenly, the scene from the officially aired episode cut to another scene which was not from the real episode.
What?
It was a scene with more ragged video, yet the audio remained the same. The scene depicted Peggy sitting on the phone late at night, most likely contacting child services to tell them about how Hank purposely had thrown a baseball at Bobby. Hank suddenly walked to the doorway. He was in a bathrobe and had no glasses on. He grabbed the phone. "Who the hell is this?" Hank yelled. "This is the Department of Child Services," was the response. He grabbed the phone. "Who the hell is this?" Hank yelled. "This is the Department of Child Services," was the response. Hank's face quickly turned red and he slammed the phone back onto the wall. He then went over to Peggy and grasped her by the neck.
What? Hey,
"You
what?
want to get more of those straight boys over here to put me in prison and take my boy away?" He howled. The scene cut to Hank taking Peggy by the back of the neck down the hallway into the backyard. Hank took a propane tank off the grill and shoved the valve into Peggy's mouth. The video then went silent for a minute, only showing the propane valve in Peggy's mouth.
Oh, God.
When the scene started moving again, Peggy's eyes slowly closed and a voice was heard. "Buck Strickland, forgive me for using propane for this." The only problem was that when Hank said this, Hank didn't even sound like Mike Judge, the creator of the show who voiced Hank. It sounded like an older and deeper voice. The screen went black after this. I fast-forwarded through the rest of the tape to make sure there was no more content on it, and there was none. I just thought to myself, why was there so much wasted space on this VHS tape? At this point, I was really shaken up. I went to grab a cup of coffee, and when I got back, I popped in the second tape. It was just a black screen. I fast-forwarded to check for content, and eventually came across some stuff that was really starting to freak me out. It was a funeral, but there were very few colors. There was only various forms of gray and black and the colors of people's faces. It just didn't seem like a real King of the Hill episode. The funeral was for Peggy. Attending it was all the Hill's neighbors, including some acquaintances such as Hank's father Cotton and John Redcorn. Even Hank was there, claiming that Peggy had ended her life. As Peggy's coffin was lowered into the hole, it faded into an overhead view of it being lowered. This part really scared the shit out of me.
What?
It was a somewhat hyper-realistic image of Peggy in the coffin. And the reason why I say somewhat is because it looked real, but it still appeared to be drawn and not a real person. It was just a realistic cartoon.
I didn't want to know that.
Bobby, Hank, and Ladybird sitting on the porch. Bobby had a queasy face on him, and Hank had one hand on the propane tank that he used to commit the murder. Bobby turned to his father. "Why did you do it, Dad?" he asked in a humble voice. I don't know, son, Hank responded.
Yeah,
It almost sounded
psychopath.
like he was crying.
We need to a mental
I then stood up
hospital.
and walked inside, leaving Bobby and Ladybird, who were still on the porch. It once again cut to a very dull scene with nothing but black, gray, and the skin colors. It was a scene that literally made me sick to my stomach.
Mm.
It was Hank, hanging from the ceiling with the
Oh.
note pinned on him.
Oh.
It just stayed focused on him swinging back and forth for about 2 minutes or so. It then
I'm
cut
not
to the ending
killed.
credits with the normal outro and theme music. I was actually kind of laughing at the inside of the fact that the show was playing the regular ending credits after all that stuff happened. I was honestly more confused and creeped out at it, though. I went to some forums, but found nothing about this episode. However, I came across someone on Yahoo Answers who had this similar occurrence as me. They received a similar tape at a thrift shop in John Creeks County in North Georgia, a place about 20 miles from where I had gotten mine. I managed to get on AIM with this person, but I wasn't able to get any response out of him. I was really curious at this point, so I drove around 40 miles and went right down to Cartoon Network / Turner Broadcasting HQ. I knew that Fox Broadcasting made the show, but I assumed Cartoon Network had every episode on record, as they aired them all. Beforehand, I did some research and figured out who was in charge of broadcasting KOTH, so I found the receptionist in the studio and demanded to talk to him. Apparently, though, I needed a guest pass of some sort. I was completely pissed off at that point, so I drove back home and put on my old sheriff's uniform. I was a sheriff for John Creeks County about 3 years ago. I went back, and although it is illegal, I used my badge to talk to him. When I got to his office, he was just sitting at his desk talking on his phone. I walked up to him, threw the tapes on his desk, and demanded answers. He dropped the phone immediately and grabbed the tapes. I followed him to another office on the other side of the building. There was a small safe in this office. He opened it up, put the tapes in, and locked it, and then he told me to leave. I didn't want to act like a sheriff anymore because I didn't want to get in trouble with the law, so I left. I got home and flipped on the TV. Adult Swim was on, and I was relieved to see an actual episode of King of the Hill. To this day, there are only 2 copies of that episode on 4 tapes that I can find anything about on the internet. One of them, I assume, is still locked up in Cartoon Network studios. You may possibly come across more of them in thrift shops throughout the southeast.
The prize as your eyes widened, your mouth outside with his knife and breath. You tried to flee your nightmare into me. Would do your heart, you test me. Not yellow and slash, not taste well like no trash. Not hard yet you walk, will leave you off my lot. Your ring you own, your mate will say you meet. The tears you shed will be from a ripping fortune. Nightmarish storm fell, terrorizing people, burning violent, raging losing knives, flashing blood, splattering, sight, last scream. Oh, when time won't now, if you won't let it my mind now. Your mom out of build up sections, I'll make it or rereckon. Your pet daddy screams more not be needed anyway. Because your nightmares will come at any day. Hey, I'm tired. I'm now so tired. Alright, there we go. Now I'm gonna pick up the hill episode from Shadow Meadow. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying pretty good. I enjoyed it. And yeah. Alright, now I'm picking up watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you one next time. So peace out.